Good evening. Welcome to the Cabarrus County Board of Education Business Meeting for Monday, March 11th, 2019. I'll call this meeting to order.
Presenting tonight's colors are members of the Mount Pleasant High School Junior Air Force ROTC, including Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Trinity Ramos, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Eric Lozano, Cadet Captain Leah Wise, Cadet Senior Airman Sarah Alzaid. And honoring America tonight with the singing of our national anthem are members of the J.N. Fries Middle School Chorus. Please stand.
Reason, arms.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order, arms. Color guard, post. Right, haste. Forward, march. Color guard.
The membership of tonight's ensemble includes Emery Dameron, Jamarian Ross, Bailey Woods, Sean Kripel, Brianna Jose, Bennett Leader, William Milloway, Megan Thornton, Caitlin Smith, Megan Maroney, Miguel Diaz, Divine Johnson, George Rogers Kirkpatrick, Mirabel Capelli, and Michelle Capelli. The director of the J.N. Fries Middle School Chorus is Mr. DJ Godinez. Thank you.
Thank you. We always enjoy having our students, whether it be through a color guard, instrumentals, or chorus. So it's always fun to have them here and give them a first chance on a little bit of the stage. So board members, I'll take a motion to set the agenda as presented.
Second.
Mrs. Grimsey made the motion. Mr. Walter made the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. And first up, we'll have the Hilbish Ford Teacher of the Month presentation.
Good evening. I'm filling in for Ms. Jones this evening. We're happy to have Mr. Vaughn back with us, and as always, we say thank you to him and to Hilbish Ford for their support of this wonderful program and helping us recognize our teachers this way. Our Hilbish Ford Teacher of the Month for March is Mr. Charles Eford. Would Mr. Eford and his family and any members of his school's administrative team who are here with him tonight please come forward? Charles Eford is an 8th grade science teacher at Harold E. Winkler Middle School. He was nominated for this award by a student who wrote, "Who knew science could be fun?" Mr. Eford brightens up the classroom every single day with humor incorporated into his teaching. I am speaking for all of my classmates when I say he motivates us to learn more about the life around us. I have gained a profound appreciation for science ever since he became my teacher. Because of him, biology rocks. Mr. Eford is special. From his funky ties to his marvelous socks, he is a remarkable teacher inside and out. When he sees a hand in need, he sets everything aside to help that person out. For many years, he has brought the best out in his students, and now it is time he knows how grateful we are to him. Mr. Eford is an out-of-this-world teacher. Mr. Eford, congratulations on your selection as our Hilbish Ford Teacher of the Month, and thank you for the light, laughter, and learning you bring to your classroom each day. Please allow Dr. Louder and Mr. Vaughn to present you with your award. And then allow our board members to congratulate you as well. Do you want me to invite Mr.
I'm thinking there's another one coming after that. Here's going to do. We'll now have the Impact Education Awards, and Ms. Ronnie Lynn will introduce and we'll welcome AXA advisors as well.
Yes. If Mr. Leo Spardella would please join me at the front of the room. Before we begin our awards presentation this evening, I just want to say a word of thanks to AXA Advisors and Mr. Spardella for their sponsorship of the Impact Through Education Awards this school year. We appreciate you all supporting our students and staff this way with this recognition as well. And I also want to say thank you and welcome to students from Cox Mill High School's broadcasting class who are here this evening filming this portion of the board meeting because they are putting together a special Impact Through Education Award feature for TV 21. So welcome to them and thank you to them for being here this evening as well. So now on to tonight's awards. We will be honoring students and staff at Royal Oaks Elementary School as well as Concord High School. And we'll start with Royal Oaks Elementary School, and I'd like to invite any members of the administrative team to come forward at this time. Our first honoree from Royal Oaks Elementary is Kaden Bender. Would Kaden and her family please come forward? Kaden Bender is the type of student every teacher cherishes. She never fails to exhibit a positive attitude, and she will always think of others before herself. Kaden strives to do her very best in everything she sets her mind to. She is the Royal Oaks Spelling Bee champion, is a member of the Battle of the Books team, and is also a member of a local Girls Who Code group. Beyond having a beautiful mind, Kaden also has a beautiful smile that can light up a room. She's never without a kind word for anyone, regardless of the situation or how she is feeling. She is a role model for each and every student and is proof that determination and a value for education can help you reach any goal you set for yourself. Get her autograph now, because this young lady is going to be famous. Congratulations on receiving this Impact Through Education Award. Congratulations. Our next Royal Oaks honoree is Jackson Gravely. Would Jackson and his family please come forward? Jackson Gravely is an all-around awesome kid. He is well-liked by his fifth grade peers and has a wide range of friendships. Jackson is respectful to adults and is kind to everyone. He is outgoing and polite and engages in meaningful conversations with others. Jackson works hard and tries his very best at every task. He shows great initiative and looks forward and looks for new ways to get involved. He is a member of the Battle of the Books team, and he loves to read, read, read. He also loves to help classmates with their work. Jackson is a conscientious, hardworking, and self-motivated student. He has a strong desire to succeed and will put in the time and effort to make sure that that happens. On top of those awesome qualities, Jackson has a great sense of humor and is so much fun to be around. The Royal Oaks staff can't wait to see how far Jackson goes in life and how much he will accomplish, because he is most definitely a leader. Congratulations, Jackson. Our next Royal Oaks honoree is Ms. Amy Lynn Foster. Would Ms. Foster and her family please come forward? Amy Lynn Foster doesn't just think outside the box. For her, there is no box. As the arts coordinator at Royal Oaks, she wears many hats. Among many other things, she is the ringmaster, the mother hen, the right arm, and the cat's meow. Amy Lynn's dedication to the arts program at Royal Oaks is limitless, and she isn't afraid to put in the hard work to make the school successful. To her, it's not just about arts integration in the classroom. It's an opportunity to give students a wonderful gift that can transform their lives and unlock the amazing potential they never knew existed. Amy Lynn is intentional about letting students know their dreams matter, and being smart can look different ways. Staff are often in her room asking for advice, and Amy Lynn is selfless when it comes to helping others. Amy Lynn Foster is the kind of teacher who puts her heart into everything she does, and Royal Oaks is happy that she's there. Congratulations on receiving this Impact Through Education Award. And our final honoree from Royal Oaks Elementary School this evening is Meredith Allen. Would Ms. Allen and her family please come forward at this time? Meredith Allen has the ability to bring out the best in others, and this is evidenced by the many students who are fortunate enough to work with her on a daily basis. She is able to build relationships even with the most challenging students, and she has a passion for helping students reach their goals. Meredith's ultimate goal is to build self-esteem and self-efficacy in children and help them overcome their personal challenges and believe in themselves. In her role as a communities and schools staff member, Meredith has already changed the lives of so many children and helped them reach their potential. She's given them the gift of confidence and other essential tools for learning in a dynamic school environment. She's their biggest champion when they are having a great day, and she will dry their tears and remind them that tomorrow is a new day when things get tough. Meredith Allen is absolutely gifted in touching hearts and reaching minds, and Royal Oaks is grateful for her dedication to its families. Congratulations on your Impact Through Education Award. Thank you. And now for our Impact Through Education Awards for Concord High School. I'd like to invite the Concord High School administrators who are here this evening to come forward at this time. Our first honoree from Concord High School is Clint Bost. Would Clint and his family please come forward? Clint Bost has spent his 4 years at Concord High School providing a major impact on the lives of both students and staff members. In the classroom, Clint always works to the best of his ability and uses his teachers' suggestions to better himself as well as his peers. He is reflective and appreciative of new opportunities to grow as an individual and strives to make the world a better place. His ability to lead the Concord High School student body is clear in the hallways, classrooms, and on the athletic field. Each day, Clint goes above and beyond what is asked of him, making sure to help teammates and peers along the way. You will often hear him encouraging other students to strive for their goals, think independently, and always be true to themselves. Underclassmen often look to him for support or guidance because they know he will always be honest, kind, and funny. It doesn't matter if it is a childhood friend or a new student. Clint is known for his high level of respect for everyone. Both teachers and coaches have often shared that they would love to fill their classrooms and teams with more young men like Clint Bost. Congratulations, Clint, on receiving this Impact Through Education Award. Our next Concord High School honoree this evening is Haywood Hayes. Would Haywood and his family please come forward? Haywood is a great selection for the Impact Through Education Award. He's one of those students who all the students and staff know and love. His positive attitude and willingness to help out in all areas is noticed by everyone. Around the school, he is known as Minister Hayes, Hollywood Hayes, or just Haywood, by the numerous girls whom he hugs every day. Haywood assists in numerous areas around Concord High School, but athletics is his love. While he will be the first to admit he lacks athletic ability, his love for the Spiders is off the charts. He is a regular in the student section during football games, then shifts to the bench area for basketball and baseball, where he assists these programs. Haywood prefers the title of team chaplain over team manager, as he sees his role as more than just keeping score and wiping up sweat. He wants to inspire the athletes to not only be the best they can be on the court or field, but also in their community. Haywood also is a big asset to the entire athletic department, as he helps with behind the scenes that very few people notice. He might help wash a load of uniforms, fold and dry them, fold them when they're dry, help set up tables or ticket counters for games, inventory new uniforms, show officials where to get dressed, and much, much more. Haywood accomplishes all of this while still maintaining all A's in the IB program at Concord High School. Haywood is one of those students that teachers dream of coming across during their careers. He cares for everyone, helps everyone, and most importantly, he respects everyone. Congratulations, Mr. Haywood Hollywood Hayes, on receiving the Impact Through Education Award. Our next Concord High School honoree is Mrs. Marie Deal. Would Mrs. Deal and her family please come forward? When thinking about a team player at Concord High School, Marie Deal immediately comes to mind. She's always looking for ways to improve the school and the IB programs at Concord High. Whether she's leading the reauthorization efforts for the diploma and middle years programs, preparing students for their community service projects, working with teachers on best practices, or ensuring the success of the students through parental involvement, Mrs. Deal gives Concord High School students her all. Mrs. Deal is in her 13th year at Concord High School and has taught all levels of history. She is currently the IB coordinator and is a former Concord High School Teacher of the Year. Congratulations and thank you, Mrs. Deal, for making an impact through education at Concord High School. And our final honoree this evening from Concord High School is Mr. Rick Sayward. If Mr. Sayward and his family would come forward at this time, please. Service is the word that can be used to describe Mr. Rick Sayward. Mr. Sayward joined the Concord High School family in 2017 after a varied career which included military service, owning a restaurant, and working in the automobile industry, among many other professions. Mr. Sayward also served on the school board in New York before moving to North Carolina. Since joining the Spider family as a custodian, he moved into the head custodian position earlier this year. He goes out of his way to make sure that all students and teachers have a clean and safe environment and is always looking for ways to make things better. He takes pride in every aspect of the school and often asks about topics such as test scores, PBIS, and other facets of the school that traditionally custodial staff members may not get involved in. He serves on the school improvement team and never stops looking for ways to make a positive impact on the school and the students. Concord High School is very lucky to have Mr. Sayward and is thankful for his unwavering service and support. Congratulations.
Well, it's always fun to hear the stories on why people were chosen for Impact for Education. I enjoy those, especially the youngsters. Board members, next we have up on our agenda the approval of the minutes of the February 4th work session and the February 11th business meeting. Okay. So I'll take a motion to approve these two sets of minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the February 4th and the February 11th meeting minutes.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. So Mr. Shoemaker made the motion, Ms. Blackwell made the second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, they're approved by 5-0. Next we have the board chair comments and then the superintendent comments. And I'll just say from my side, as we're doing the awards tonight, I'm thinking, we need to make sure we get the recognitions, year-end recognitions started in April. Because we always have so many in May, and then still we have a few left in June. So we need to try to make sure we move some up to kind of spread them out. But it's always nice to have those. We will be talking about realignment a little bit later, but I just want to assure the community that the board members have been working diligently to review the suggestions that come in, trying to balance the schools, look at the routes to school, all of those things. So if we look like some of us haven't had much sleep, it's because we're looking at maps 5 days a week at least. So in addition to our regular jobs. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Lowder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to begin tonight by congratulating our Teacher of the Year finalists, Melissa Brantley from R. Brown McAllister STEM Elementary, Catherine Highsmith from Weddington Hills Elementary, Julie Lucas from Cabarrus Early College of Technology, Virginia Madoran from Mary Frances Wall Center, and Amy Shue from Concord Middle School. They are our 5 finalists, and the District Teacher of the Year will be named during a celebration on April 9th. Ms. Colbert is actually on that committee, and she was just talking before this started about how difficult it was going to be to choose a Teacher of the Year. So we look forward to naming one of those 5 our Teacher of the Year on April 9th. I also want to congratulate Northwest Cabarrus Middle School Principal Anna Blessington on being named the 2019 Middle Level Administrator to Watch by the North Carolina Association of Middle School Educators, which is a nice honor for her, so we certainly congratulate her. Last week we celebrated National School Social Work Week, and I just want to take a moment to say thank you to our school social workers for the vital role that they play in helping students meet the academic, social, and emotional challenges on the road to becoming successful and productive young adults. So thank you very much for everything that you do at our schools. March is Youth Art Month and Music in Our Schools Month. Cabarrus County Schools is celebrating all month long as our students' visual, musical, and theatrical talents are on display in a variety of venues. The celebration will culminate with our annual Arts Festival in downtown Concord on Friday, April 5th. Next week, on March 19th, high school juniors and seniors will participate in the Cabarrus County Career Connections Day at Cabarrus Arena. This is a unique job fair that introduces students to exciting career opportunities in the CTE field. A quick reminder to parents and students that school will be closed tomorrow, March 12th, and also again on March 29th. We are continuing our efforts to enhance safety on all of our campuses. Beginning in April, we will begin staggered random safety checks using metal detectors in our secondary level schools. Initially, we will begin phase 1 of the safety checks with 4 schools to learn best practices and make process adjustments before beginning the safety checks in all of our middle and high schools in the fall. We've worked with security screening professionals to train safety teams at the phase 1 schools. And school staff will receive training before the safety checks begin. Parents and students will also receive information about expectations and procedures prior to the start of the checks, which are just another layer of safety that we're providing to ensure the safety of all of our campuses. And lastly, I just want to mention to the board the quarterly forecast where we try to give you an update of what's coming up in the next few months, April, May, and June. I just passed out to you the list of what we know for sure now is going to be on the list. Sometimes we add those, or as we go to our agenda review, the board chair, the vice chair, or board member may send something for us to add. But if you'll just look over those in April, we'll have budget amendments, construction updates, adopt a proposed budget. There's a couple steps involved with that. We'll have policy. As I mentioned earlier, the Teacher of the Year will be in April. The Teacher Fair, which is our big job recruitment fair. The retirement banquet this year will be at the end of April. And then cabling and data bids for West Cabarrus High School, which is not a normal thing, but obviously is there because we're going to be opening a high school. In May, again, budget amendments and updates. We'll have policy. Quite a few things that actually the board has to weigh in on and pass, which is the AIG plan, which is state required, the Title I plan, which is federal required, the CTE plan, which I think is federal and state, the Rowan Cabarrus MOA, school system fees, where we update those and the board votes on them each year, and then the food pricing for school nutrition will be in the May agenda. And then in June, maintenance contract with the county and Kannapolis City Schools, I think is a 5-year agreement that'll be up to be renewed. Again, budget amendments, the continuing budget resolution will be much closer to being final or be final at that point. Construction updates policy, and then the computer leases with Apple and Dell. So again, just try to give you an update if you're expecting or not, and then if for some reason we've forgotten something or something that you definitely want to make sure is on that agenda, then certainly you can say that now or send us an email to make sure we get it on the agenda.
Your early college graduation and regular grade?
Yes, early college graduation usually is at the beginning of May. I don't have those dates in front of me, but I think they're still available on the website. So again, if there's something that you remember, hey, this was last year or was it not there, or something you want to make sure is on our agenda, then obviously just let us know. But we'll try to give you an idea of what's coming up. May really does have a number of things that are crucial that the board actually has to vote on. All plans don't have to be board approved, but all of those do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lauder. Now we'll move into our section for guest speakers. And per the agenda, these are in accordance, having a period for guest speakers are in accordance with Board Policy 2310. A part of each business meeting will be set aside for citizens to address the board through public comment. Each speaker will receive 3 minutes to present comments. Sign-up will be available 30 minutes before the meeting, and then you can certainly email in ahead of time as well. So the rest of the details are in the agenda. So the first one I have is Norman McCullough to come speak with us. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
If you'd like to press the button up there, Dr. Probst will show you.
Can you just give this to them? Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Norman McCullough, and I'm here to request collaboration to celebrate Warren C. Coleman. Many people know Warren C. Coleman, but many people do not know Warren C. Coleman, who was a great man from Concord, who was a Concord resident. He lived and he died here in Concord, and many people are proud of him. I come here as a veteran, as a teacher at RCCC. Many of your students come and they see me. I teach American history, especially African American history. I'm also here as a trustee of Price Memorial Church. That is the church that Mr. Coleman built with his own money in this community. So in 3 minutes, I have to move along. I'm also a homeowner, okay? So I'm here to ask for your cooperation and collaboration to make it possible for the young people of this community to get inspired. Many of our students need inspiration. They need people that they can look up to. So Warren C. Coleman, as I've indicated in my book, is one of those people. So I'm here to beg, plead, borrow, whatever, and say, school system, along with the city of Concord, get on board. We're having a program on April 27th at Union Street. That's where Mr. Coleman had his store. Please support this effort in any way you can. It is important for all parts of the community to feel that there is a part for them to play. And Warren C. Coleman was someone that we could all of us could be proud of. If you don't know about him, that's why I'm standing here. If you want to learn about him, then you get on board and you say, okay, let me find out something more about a man from Concord. His father was a Confederate general. His mother was a slave, but he was from Concord. He was from Concord, and I, as an American citizen, are proud. I am proud of this man, and I'm asking for your cooperation and your support. I don't come here because I don't have things to do. I have a lot to do, but I come here because you are the leadership of the educational community, and so please, keep it in mind. I'm reaching out. I'm here. There are other people here who also know about what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for coming.
Thank you.
The next speakers are Madison Powell and Taylor Kaiser from Central Cabarrus High School. It's on.
Oh,
You can start.
okay. Good evening, board members. My name is Taylor Kaiser.
And I am Madison Powell, and we are from Central Cabarrus with FCCLA, which is Family Career Community Leaders of America. In our club, we like to better the community through leadership and service. One of the things we notice is about human trafficking. It's become a big issue in our community, and human trafficking is the exploitation of an individual through commercial sex and forced labor.
This is especially prevalent in our county. North Carolina is consistently ranked in the top 10 in our nation for human trafficking. Charlotte and the surrounding counties, which includes us, is #1 in our state, and the average age that somebody is coerced into this sickening industry is only 13. This is our middle schoolers. When we're talking about preventing this, the most effective way is to effectively educate our students in the facts of the issue. Senate Bill 279 requires that human trafficking be in the family life education in middle schools. But with this, we believe that it could be further progressed to be more effective. Present Age Ministries, which is a nonprofit organization within our community, has had girls from every single high school in Cabarrus County enter into their survivor program. And those are just the ones supported. So we must do better educating our students.
This curriculum is a great step forward, but it's not enough. We have speak with 9th graders at our school who have told us that they only knew the term of the word, which is not enough education on it.
Yeah, this is pretty appalling that the fact that in our state alone is in the top 10, and they've only been educated on the term human trafficking. So what we're asking for in our revision of North Carolina Senate Bill 279 is we want it to be revised to require teachers to be trained on the issue. If they're better educated, they can better educate our students in prevention and other things like that so they can better prevent themselves from being coerced into this industry. Also, we would like better training for the support staff. It is important that our counselors and other teachers can be effective in identifying these students. So many times, these girls or guys are misidentified as the troubled child or the one that doesn't pay attention. If we can get them to properly identify and not stereotype, they can effectively assess and assist the situation. Finally, we would like for it to be revised to include a measure of student understanding to ensure that the student understands the concept and how to prevent it. Oh, lastly, we just have a handout and we have a petition that we would like you guys to sign that supports the revision of the Senate Bill 279. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming on such an important issue. Okay, board members, the next item on our agenda, and that was the end of the public speakers there. The next item on our agenda is approval of the consent agenda. We have budget amendments, policies on first reading, policies on second reading, and the board calendar, and all of the attachments are there under 8.01. Do I have a motion? Okay, thank you, Ms. Grimsley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Grimsley made the motion. Ms. Blackwell made the second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We have our new calendar now to log on all of our schedules. Under action agenda, we have item 9.01. Mr. Louder will join us regarding the sewer right-of-way request at Mount Pleasant High School.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you. As we discussed at our work session last week, Town of Harrisburg is working with a developer to redevelop a portion of Green Mobile Home Park along Highway 73. They have acquired some of the right-of-way. The sewer line has been designed for quite some years. It attaches to the pump station at the lower end of Mount Pleasant High School. It says public sewer through the town of Mount Pleasant. And they've requested that we grant this easement across the portion of Mount Pleasant. It's the only piece of easement left in order to make this happen. So I just presented their request to you. And once you have approved it, they'll make up the right-of-way agreements and actually have the maps specifically calling out the right-of-way that you'll be able to sign at that point in time.
And this work will be coordinated with your department, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You'll be aware of when they're coming on campus, and maybe guide them to a better time if it's not such a good time?
Yes, ma'am. We'll also set limits and times when they can be on campus to do this.
Okay.
It should be a pretty short period. We only have 3 manholes, and it's a pretty short period till they're off our campus. But
Okay. And I'm just curious, from a coming on campus standpoint, do they need to sign in because they're on the property?
we usually do have them to present to us who their workers are, so we know who's going to be on site. And then they come in the mornings and work early, because they don't have to come in every single day and sign in before, because most times they're at work well before we start school and well after we start school, so they don't be able to sign in or sign out.
Okay.
Is this during the summer? Is this a summer project?
I don't know if it's going to start this summer or not. I know they're through the permitting process right now, so just depending on how fast the permitting goes.
I mean, I think it'd be easier if they could do it before the
Well, it'd
kids
be
are out of
much
school.
easier for them, both weather-wise and obviously, for the, it's been a wet area, so obviously it'd be best if it was in a drier time, but we just don't know when the permits will come through.
Mostly in summer. Any other questions, comments? I'll take a motion to approve the sewer easement and road right-of-way as requested.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Shoemaker made the motion, Mrs. Grimsley made the second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. Next, we have 9.02, the audit contract for 2019-20. Mrs. Klutz, if there are any questions? And we had I'll say a bit of a presentation last week. We had the information to read. And this is a renewal with the same firm, so. Any questions?
Is this the last year of the contract?
No, it's an annual contract, and what I said was that the board usually allows us to go 3 to 5 years before we issue another RFP.
Okay, but it's been like three or four years since we had that last RFP, right?
This is the third year.
Third year.
So then next year we can decide if we want to go with an RFP or just continue for another year or two. So I'll take a motion to approve the audit contract. And Mindy, I'm just looking here. Yeah. Say, wait a second, Mindy. So Mrs. Grimsley made the motion. Mr. Walter made the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes 5-0. Thank you, ma'am. Excuse me. On 9.03, we have the review the outcomes of the work session regarding the realignment. And Dane, are you running the presentation? Are you running the presentation tonight? Okay. In the, let me tell you which file. To open, I just went past the agenda item. If you will open I think it's the realignment questions resolution summary. So that log was updated. Board members, you'll recognize this. And you actually received a fresh copy last night. I'm going to get mine positioned in the right place. So Mr. Shoemaker and I spent some time going through our notes to, I'll say, update the color coding and to do the tallies of if we do the actions we somewhat gained consensus on or we wanted to still consider it, what would be the effect? So you'll see on the first row there where it says Planning Block 8 for high school, that item is still under consideration. But if you look below that, Planning Block 8, which is the Concord Middle School, not Concord Middle School, Concord Mills area near Derrida Road, all of the apartments on both sides of Concord Mills Boulevard. The numbers at Harris Road Middle School cannot sustain keeping that group of students, and that's 44 middle school students, at Harris Road Middle School. So the original proposal was let them stay where they are today, but we need to reduce Harris Road's numbers. So that's why I shaded it blue, kind of in that half and half mode, to say we really need to keep the middle school there. The school that needs the most help, or relief, I should say, with capacity is Harris Road Middle School. So, Mr. Shoemaker, do you have the totals there handy?
Yeah. So, let me just sort down to the middle school. And then we'll look at.
Because this option would add 44 students back to Harris Road.
The committee recommendation has Harris Road at 1,334 students. And so the capacity there is actually, the utilization is at 107% right now, without any of our scenarios being added.
Yeah, and that is with the updates of the 2018-19 numbers in it.
That's correct.
Okay.
Say that one more time.
With the 2018-19 numbers, the population of Harris Road Middle School was at 1,334. Its option capacity or program capacity in the Cropper study was at 1,242. And so when you do the arithmetic, it comes up to 107.4%.
I think you said 107.
107, that's what I said.
107, okay.
I
So,
may have gobbled that last.
okay, so I guess I'd like to ask, are you all okay with leaving middle school Planning Block 8 as the committee recommended it and having them go to Winkler Middle School, which can sustain the number of students?
Oh, it says Winkler's at 100% also, doesn't it?
Yes, hold on, I'll go back to that one. I'll let you know where we are on that. So you have Harold Winkler. Middle school has 1,135 students. Its program capacity is 1,132 students, so it's at 100.27% right now. So it's right at its limit on the program capacity.
Is that with or without this 44?
That is without. That's just that's the 2018-19. And that doesn't include, that's with the 44, that's just with the recommendation. This is
The
with
recommendation, so it is
Yeah.
included,
Yes,
because the 44 is already in there.
right. So, this is just the way the option one, I call it, the base, that's where it is on the base, 100.27%. Now, before we started when Mr. Cropper gave the first review, we didn't have the 2018-19 numbers. So Harris Road and Winkler were both below 100% at that time. So when he updated the 2018-19 numbers, then that made both of these schools exceed their program capacity. This isn't their core capacity, so let's not get confused with that, but this is their program capacity.
So basically, this planning block 8 was added by a couple of the board members to be considered, and we're saying now it can't handle making that change. So I guess the real question is, are you all okay with if we withdraw that from consideration and keep the committee recommendation for planning block 8 middle school?
So basically, we have the high school, planning block 8. We're basically we kind of consensed that we would keep that at Cox Mill, but this one at the middle school level doesn't make sense to move them from their current middle school, which is Winkler, to Harris Road.
Well, they're
I
actually,
understand that part, but now we're creating our elementary schools, and kids go, I guess, to the south. Now, our middle school kids are going to go to the south, but why wouldn't our high school kids also go to the south?
go where, I'm sorry?
South of I-85 is what I'm trying to say. We're moving them on the other side of 85 at elementary school. We're moving them to the other side of 85 for middle school, but now we're going to take them away from their friends that they've had for who knows how long, and then move them to Cox Mill.
Well, the
I'm not
challenge
sure I
is
understand that.
that we don't have the middle school capacity to match up to the high school capacity with West Cabarrus opening, which is why middle school is the next construction. So it's not going to align. There's always going to be separations.
Yeah, but I do understand if you're already at 107, adding additional kids doesn't make sense.
When you look at the distances between West Winkler and Harris Road, there's not a shade of difference in the distance now.
It's tenths of a mile difference.
Right, but the Harris Road Middle School is a lot more problematic in that you have a lot more turns, a lot more lights, a lot more opportunities for turning activities and that, whereas when they leave the Concord Mills area, they go straight down to Weddington and then they're a straight shot in. So it's just a little bit less harrowing adventure for them to continue to go to West Winkler rather than going. But when you compare the high school scenario, the high school, as you all know where Cox Mill is about 2 miles from where these
high school
these
kids
folks
are.
are in planning block 8, whereas Winkler is still, West Cabarrus is still like 5 miles away.
Well,
So
they were
there's-
going to go to
yeah.
Robinson, which was 6 point something.
Was it Robinson?
Yeah, they were going to go the whole way across Britton
Yeah,
Smith.
so it's even further.
Yeah. So,
So, Madam Chair, I would like to make a recommendation because, and I know we all can't work on this all at the same time, and you and Mr. Shoemaker have been working on this. I really wanted to see the capacity issues. I think I spoke that to you.
that's what we're addressing. That's what we went through and
I
prepared for
know
tonight.
you are, but the
Yeah.
problem is we don't have it to look at all at one time, so it's kind of hard for y'all to tell us, but yet, I need to see that. So can we not update this and include capacity numbers? I thought that's actually what we were going to do.
Actually, I have the capacity numbers on this sheet, but you have to talk about each one before you go looking at the overall impact. So we would like to talk to each one, then we can look at the overall impact of, all right, if we consent to do this, this is what it looks like, or,
And I
because I
get
do
that.
have that type of information.
Right, and that's the whole point. You've got it and you're looking at it, so.
Right, but it's
Yeah.
hard to, if you don't talk about it, because Ms. Furtenball and I were on the phone for over 3 hours last night, trying to make sure we had our act together so we could talk to you, so that you could see accurate numbers. Now that we've got that, it'll be an easier discussion, but if we don't talk about each line on this sheet, then we won't be on the same page as we
So
go
then are you
forward.
gonna update the capacity? And I was just hoping that we could have something that would show the capacities once we made these changes. I know
We
you're
will, which
telling
is
us.
why we're not voting tonight.
Perfect.
So
That is great.
if we get the consensus tonight to proceed with this and we add and subtract, because what was happening is we had all these great ideas. And as we worked through them at the last meeting, then you look at it and say, oh my gosh, it blew up the capacity of this school. We can't agree to everything. So we've got to temper ourselves. And I also don't want to make it where the last item on the list becomes impossible because we've agreed to too many things. So for right now, if
Yeah.
you know that planning block 8, middle school does not work on the capacity numbers, but the high school can work.
Yes.
So
Dane, did you happen to get that file that I sent Cindy? Did you send him that file as well?
I didn't send him.
Okay,
Your
so I
file.
could send him my file so
Yeah.
we could display it later on. But if we need to work through this sheet, I can just interject. And then when we want to look at the final, then we can look at the sheet that we've been tallying against so you can see the percentages, so you can actually get a view. But it's really hard to flip back and forth. As you saw last time, we seem to
Yeah.
always have problems when we started flipping.
And if you look at the things that are shaded blue now, you can see the legend on the top that basically we had concurrence already. So all of those numbers have been taken into account with what Mr. Shoemaker has already. And the biggest issue on this particular area was that middle school can't. There's not enough room. And we need to leave a little bit of room for new children because we know that far west side of the county will continue to grow. So I wasn't planning to go through any of the blue areas that we seem to be in somewhat agreement last week. And Mr. Shoemaker and I had slightly different notes, so I wanted to make sure we erred on the side of rediscussing. So if we go down to the next yellow, which is high school 93. So in that area, I contacted Mr. Cropper to ask them why. I actually went out and drove it yesterday, all around the 89, 90, 91, 93 area to see where the roads connected or didn't connect based on what I was seeing in the planning block. And there is one section on the east side of Freedom Acres and whatnot that is only exits onto Pitt School Road. I have to think of all the roads. It only exits onto Pitt School Road. It has no throughput to the other neighborhoods. So Mr. Cropper, and I didn't check yet tonight, Mr. Cropper was going to make that its own planning block because it's combined, but the roads are not connected at all. And so that may be where we draw the line for planning block, or for planning block 93, is to say it'll go up to this division where there's a road that only comes out on Pitt School Road. It's Plantation is the road. And that's where Robinson would start, and the children there are at Robinson today. So I don't think we can really make a decision, but Mr. Shoemaker, I believe, even if we moved all of planning block 93, West Cabarrus was okay.
Yes. Yeah. Let me get to that. Hold on.
So we had already gained consensus on 89, 90, 91. 93 was the additional part, more to the south and east side of the previous area, and that would form the end of the West Cabarrus High School line. So the number on 93, planning block 93 right now is 51 students in the high school. That would potentially change based on what they record when they split out planning block 93.
Okay, so planning block 93 with West Cabarrus and 89 and 90 all ended up moving the population of that school from 83.1% to 92.54%
To West Cabarrus.
to West Cabarrus.
Okay.
And then what does that make J.M. Robinson? And then what does that make J.M. Robinson?
Hold on.
Is it, J.M. Robinson will have the other factors of the areas in Harrisburg that would come back over. So there would be a subtraction, but then we did have a substitute for that. So,
Right, and right now, because we haven't approved some of the other moves, right now, Robinson is going to be sitting at 67%. So it'll go from 82.6% to 67%
temporarily.
temporarily.
Yeah, until we add in those other areas that we had already.
Yeah, because the
mostly
only thing I've
there.
done is just remove those blocks out of Robinson. That's the only thing I've done, because that was the only thing we were kind of consensing on. So there's one block, let me show you.
How many are we moving at Robinson?
It's 51 on here. It'll be something less than 51 when we have the map adjusted, because I imagine there's high school students on that, where that road is separate from the neighborhood.
So I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right. So with this move, right now, nothing else included, we'll move it on down the line. West Cabarrus High School sits at 92%, and J.M. Robinson sits at 67 before we make any other moves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and you'll see the additions come in later. Because last night I was asking the same thing on the phone. We got Robinson back up in the 80s. So by the other, I think that's what it was. It was in the 80s somewhere. So Planning Block 93, again, is the other phase of Freedom Acres. The woodlands, the areas along the east side of Weddington Road. And I think we were pretty close to consensus last week, but there was a question about Planning Block 93 was so big. So, and Mr. Cropper did say that, through email, did say that the committee discussed that, because they also noticed that road was not connected to the neighborhoods. So. So are you all okay if we include that in the recommendation for West Cabarrus as we build up West Cabarrus? And then obviously you all have another, occasion to review it.
So you're just we're going to preliminary make these changes tonight, then you're going to update it again.
Then we're going to give you a total and says, here's Robinson High School, here's the minuses, here's the pluses, and here's the new capacity percentage.
Okay. So then when we get done with this tonight, we're going to get all the new capacities once we
Based on the 18, 19 numbers,
Okay,
yes.
because that's the hard part.
Yeah.
We're making all these changes. Y'all have seen it, and you've played
Right.
with it, but we haven't, so. Okay.
Well, you have the opportunity.
No, I'm talking about, you don't have capacities in here. I mean, we have to sit down and do, we can.
Oh,
but you
yeah,
just
and
get-
that's what I did.
Yeah, but we
Yeah.
just got, when did you send it to us?
Oh, no, what I'm saying is I've been doing it every night for weeks.
Oh, I know, but that's
And
what I'm
studying
saying.
these maps.
Right, and that's what we're doing too, but when y'all are making some additional changes and.
No, these aren't additional. These are all in the log.
Well, it is in the law.
We
but
just-
what
yeah.
I'm saying is not being able to see it all at one time as we do this and move through it. It
Yeah,
makes it
we
a
just
little
want to
difficult.
get, like I said, see if there's any, no, that definitely has to come out type of modes, or if no, we're generally okay. So we only have 5 here tonight, but last week we had 6, and there was mostly consensus on these areas. There weren't any that were just absolutely take them out. We either kept the committee recommendation or, we adopted the change. So if you go down to, skip the blue ones and the not discussed ones, if you go down to where it says elementary, and there's a whole set of numbers on the left, I think 12 numbers, Founders Reserve, Timber Forest, Valhalla, those areas. That is that thumb area of Harrisburg, what we were calling it last week, west of 49, where the kids across the street were slated to go to Pitt School Road Elementary, Robinson High School, and so on. And we said both sides of the road, we had a speaker or two speak to that, is we're on both sides of Moorhead Road, for example, we all want to go to the same schools. So the easiest way to accommodate that is for all of the students to remain at Pitt School Road Elementary, which is where they are today. And then for the high school, they would all attend Robinson. which they're all at Hickory Ridge High School today, but we can't move everybody from that area to Hickory Ridge. That's a capacity issue. So if we move them all to Robinson, then we offset the other shifts, and they keep their neighborhoods together. And that area did previously go to Robinson before Hickory Ridge was built. So first on the elementary, having the 54 students stay at Pitt School Road Elementary is no change for the students. It is a change against the recommendations. So Mr. Shoemaker, you need to put the 54 back in. And that's the one we talked about last year, that Pitt School Road classrooms were being used for, was it exceptional children? Programs that we only have in very specific and small number of schools across the county. And so that could possibly be adjusted if necessary.
So what are you suggesting that we do?
I think we need to have those children remain at Pitt School Road. They're west of 49.
All right.
And then, but I think just from a capacity number, if you want to share what that is.
Yeah, right now, the capacity number with those children added in to Pitt School Road moves the school from 104% to 110%. So it goes from 858, where it is now, versus a program capacity of 824 to, when you add those additional students, it goes to 912 versus a program capacity of 824, 110%. So that's where it goes.
So what's the number over capacity?
Yes.
The number of students.
Yes.
I said, what is the number?
It's 912. So it's 912
12
students.
minus.
Minus, I don't have that delta, so it's minus, it's 88.
Okay, so that's
88
across,
students.
yeah, across 6 grades. It may or may not affect, and staff can evaluate that with the special needs classrooms at that school. So sometimes the special needs are in classrooms we have extra, and if we don't have them extra in that area, then they'll adjust. And they've been adjusted over the years.
Right. And
Can
so,
we get staff to confirm that? Is it?
That's right.
Yeah.
but when you look at Harrisburg Elementary, with those students being removed, it goes from 711 down to 657.
And its
And
capacity
so its
is,
capacity will go from 82% to 75.7%.
and that's still a growth area, is that correct? Yeah.
So you're moving 54 from one to the other, and so that's what the move is. I said 88, but I was incorrect. Trying to do mental arithmetic.
And I don't think, we didn't have anything coming out of Pitts, right? No.
Not yet.
Okay, so for this one, I think we need confirmation from staff regarding the ability to either adjust the classrooms or the mobile unit capacity there.
At Pitts?
Mhm.
I would say what you've said is correct. Like right now, there are a significant amount of special ed classes at Pitt School Road, which if there's a capacity problem, then we'll have to look at other alternatives for that, which is essentially a yearly decision anyway on where to put those. It's not that we want to move them around all the time, but they can be moved, and they are, depending on need and capacity. So that would, I think we're comfortable with Pitts in that area, saying then if we get to capacity, we can look at where else we can place those programs.
So can we look at option 2 for Harrisburg Elementary then?
Mr. Walsh, it's very difficult to shift options at this point because we're using all the capacity baselines off of
Yeah,
option
just
1.
responding to Barry's where we're way under capacity if we take those students.
I know, we just need to keep focused. If you want to state a specific area, but we need to stay focused on option 1 because all of our reporting is
Yeah.
based on option 1.
So even though I understand what you're saying, Rob, we have to use planning blocks in order to adjust this sheet.
Okay, then
It
planning
doesn't have option 2.
Then
in it.
planning block 117 and 115. Add those back to Harrisburg.
Okay, hold on. And where does it come from? because I have to do a
That
subtraction.
would come from the new school.
From Hickory Ridge Elementary.
Okay, so I'll put in here, what was that planning block number?
115 and 116 and 117, I guess
Hold on,
there's
let me-
three of
one
them.
at a time, 115, and how many children was that in elementary?
Says 2.
So I'm gonna add 2 to something, to Harrisburg Elementary.
And then 116 has 6.
2, and then I'm taking 2 away from HR.
Okay, the planning block numbers again, Mr. Walker?
115, 116, and 117. I mean, they currently go to Harrisburg right now.
I am not. Oh, because it's down below there, 115,
Oh,
116,
and, yeah, my
117.
numbers are off a little, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
'Cause I was looking at the high school numbers for that. planning
Yeah,
block.
well, 117 says 117 children, or 207, sorry.
All right, so you're gonna add them to Harrisburg Elementary and take them from Harris Road, is that correct?
Hickory Ridge.
Oh, Hickory Ridge, I don't know why I said Harris Road, HR. I'm looking at initials.
I think you can do 116, but I don't know that it's worth it when people have been reviewing the maps for 5 students. We cannot move the planning block 117. That is 207 elementary children.
How many?
207.
All right, so just give me the numbers and then we'll just
Yeah.
look at it then.
Wow.
So you got 207, and what was the planning block?
117. 117 was the 207 students.
Right, so 116 is the only one I don't have. I had
5 students.
5 for that one, and so I had for 115, 2 students.
That was high school, 0 in elementary school.
Got a 0, okay, so I got a 0 and a 0. All right, so now we'll do the sort.
Yeah, I'll just tell you, based on the roads, I don't think we want to do 115.
All right.
That seems to be coming in from the Hickory Ridge from the south.
So
That's where they are now.
here's what happens in that scenario, Rob. When you add in, basically when you add in 117, the population at Harris Road,
Hickory Ridge,
Hickory Ridge. What is this doing?
or Harrisburg Elementary, or Harris Elementary,
No,
Harrisburg.
I got
Too
I got
many
a couple,
Harrises.
I got a couple things that got checked. Hold on here. All right, there we go. Okay. So it moves from 82% to 100%.
Well, the thing on option 2 says 95.
But that may not be the 1819 numbers.
But that's not the 18, 19, that's the
Yeah.
old numbers. Yeah, so we'd have to update those 18, 19 numbers, but I didn't do that in this sheet. I only went with option 1, so that's why we have to do all the planning blocks.
Yeah.
So that we can capture the difference.
And I'm just looking on the option 1 for elementary schools. I
But-
believe the reason they kept 116 and 117 together is because those neighborhoods all enter off of Robinson Church, and they're back to back. There seems to be a contiguous flow there when they're thinking of routing properly and whatnot.
All right, so here's what happens to Hickory Road Elementary. So it's at 91% in option 1, but when you move out planning block 117, it drops from 91% to 68.7%.
Yeah, like they all, it's domino effect.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm really surprised that planning block 116 is only 5 elementary, when its neighboring subdivision, although twice as large, is 207. It must be an age,
Well,
one was built before the other.
that particular planning, when you looked at option 1 and option 2 for Harrisburg and Hickory Ridge, they actually were flip-flopping 2 planning blocks, pretty much. 2 major planning blocks when you go back and forth and toggle between those 2. So it was because of the largeness of the planning blocks, that was what was driving it. The size, excuse me, the size of the planning blocks.
And I'll just say, keep in mind, if there was incredible growth in one particular area, I hate to say, but we may have to rediscuss certain particular areas, especially when you see this many youngsters in that particular neighborhood. That could go to 250 in another year, depending on where kindergartners are and all that. But we want to get as close to final, but you'll never say never, because we don't know where new students will come for the new school year, but we know we'll probably have at least 500 or 600 new students. So, okay, so are you guys okay if we add in to the calculations to show the accumulated numbers, the elementary and the high school for the area west of 49, where I'll say their neighbors across the street are going to a different school, and sync those up? Any further comments?
You're gonna update everything anyway, right?
Huh?
You're gonna update.
Well, we're gonna, yeah, we'll do these as that we're going to include them in the totals, and then you'll see the
All right, so
capacity as we know it.
let me refresh your, since we've been throwing numbers around.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back to Pitt School Road. Sorry, this is so painful. What it is. All right, so Pitt School Road will be at 912 with the addition of planning block 132, 133 on 134. And its capacity will go to 110.6%. Conversely,
Based on current program capacity. But
Based on the
program
current-
capacity,
right.
the program capacity may be adjusted.
Yeah, the program capacity is 824 for that school, but its capacity, its core capacity is designed at 1,000 or something is what I think I remember Chris saying. Dr. Letter, excuse me. So then that carries us to Harrisburg Elementary. And Harrisburg Elementary moves from 711 to 657. So it goes from 82% to 75.7 or 76% with a program capacity of 867.
And I think we just put all those on the chart and see where it lands as far as the capacity and the percentage, and if there's any final tweaks. So we will have the work session in April to further discuss and look at those capacity numbers with the additions and subtractions. One of the goals tonight is to determine what we need a public hearing for. So we'll do a second public hearing if that's your pleasure. We don't have to do one, but we can. But it would only be for the folks who were being changed that was different than the original committee recommendation. So. And this area in Harrisburg is one of those areas that we would hear, we could hear from. Okay, so let's move down to the, and I think, Barry, what I'm hearing is that we'll include everything in the totals and say if we accept everything that's on this chart that we haven't already eliminated for some reason, here's what the numbers will be across the county. And it's never going to be 100% perfect because of the amount of children in any one neighborhood. And the amount of children in that neighborhood could still change. As they age out, the houses sell, whatever. So, okay, so we had Rocky River Crossing we had already discussed to keep the committee recommendation on that one. If we look at high school planning block 16, 145, 146, the current schools are Pitt School Road Elementary, and this is only for high school impact, but they're currently at Pitt School Road Elementary, Hickory Ridge Middle School, and Hickory Ridge High School. The recommendation is to stay at Pitts School Road, J.N. Freeze, and West Cabarrus High School. We're suggesting, based on the location, that we move them to Robinson. So we already saw where we were subtracting out of Robinson before, and this would put children back into Robinson and keep them a little more closely aligned. So when you think Pitts School Road Elementary is just really down on the same road as Robinson, it keeps a tighter loop for the feeder district.
$167, let me make sure I have that one in there.
So that's 92 high school students, Mr. Shoemaker.
Yep, let me just go down to 167, make sure it's in there. Because I didn't remember seeing that one in there. No, I don't have that one in there. So, no, I'm sorry, it's 135, 137. I'm looking at the wrong thing. 135, I think I have those in there. Yep.
Yeah, it's not 135. It's 16, 145, 146.
Are you in Rocky River Crossing?
No, Rocky River Crossing we already agreed to.
Okay. Oh, so you have to 16, okay.
16, 145, 146. One of the planning blocks doesn't even have any students in it, any high school students. One has 2 and the other one has 90. And the good thing is that we had agreed.
Population of West Cabarrus, because,
Oh, as far as the capacity?
yeah. So right now, are we going to talk about planning blocks 240? I'd rather work on one school at a time, and it would be easier to see the impacts, because it's kind of jumping around and it's really hard to keep up, because we have multiple scenarios at schools. Say, for instance, at West Cabarrus, I have the 16, 146, and 145, but then I have this 249 from Zamosa
Yeah.
and
but
265.
They were an ad, but what we saw is that those 103 students, if we were only going to move the high school to West Cabarrus, not move middle school because they didn't have the capacity at Winkler for them.
Mm-hmm.
That was not in the committee recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
So we just leave them at the committee recommendation and they stay at Northwest. Otherwise, Northwest Cabarrus High School drops too low.
Okay, well, that's good. I'll just,
Yeah, so they're not a plus or minus to West Cabarrus because that's the other one that we really don't need to move right now. I think when the middle school's built and we see the shift, then that's probably going to be either south of 85, they're probably going to need to move. But then we will have middle school room. So don't worry about the 249, 265, because there's nothing to change in your file. The committee's recommendation is they're at Northwest, and what we concluded when we added all the numbers up last night is that they need to stay at Northwest for now.
okay, let me get rid of those numbers. There.
So what you would need to do is remove the 92 from West Cabarrus High School for the planning blocks 16, 145, 146. Remove the 92 because it is in the recommendation to go to West Cabarrus. And this suggestion here is that they should probably go to Robinson because of the proximity.
When you say the 92, which town, what are you talking about? The
92
90s?
high schools.
Oh, you mean from Zamosa?
No, 92 high school students. Glen Grove, Howitt Commons, Lippard Lane, Roberta Mills. And it's the second row on the display.
Yes, 145, 146. You want to remove those and leave them where they were, or bring those to West Cabarrus?
No, subtract them from West Cabarrus,
Okay,
add them to Robinson.
They are. They have been. So West Cabarrus now is sitting at 87%, and Robinson,
With the multiple changes.
mhm. And Robinson is sitting at, Robinson's sitting at 81.4%.
Okay, so those are both pretty good with that change. So any objections to including those in the total, the final analysis? They're okay? Yeah. Okay, then down in the middle of the screen right now, the 249, planning box 249, 265, 266, 268. Taking those out of Northwest drops the Northwest Cabarrus High School capacity. I think it was in the low 70%. It almost drops it too low. But in a way, by taking the previous one we just spoke about, the 92 students, out of West Cabarrus, we leave room to move that whole south of 85 area to the feeder districts that are West Cabarrus.
So right now, we don't have any changes for Northwest Cabarrus at this point.
Not yet on here.
Right. So we're still at 82% at
Okay.
Northwest.
The next one is the Skybrook area. I think, yeah, there's two left to kind of under consideration. But board members, one thing I want to make sure of, we've discussed this and discussed it and discussed it. We need to be ready for a decision and not rediscussing everything. So if you study something before the next meeting, when you'll have the chart, please speak up ahead of time so that we can, kind of get to this decision process in April. So for Skybrook, about 80 students. There's 100 in that area, 100 elementary, 80 students, subtracting out what we estimate to be 20 Mandarin. And is the Mandarin program only an in-school program?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
it's not a magnet program, is it?
It's not a magnet, that's right.
Okay.
It's their school first, and if there's space, somebody could travel, but it's not a magnet program.
Okay, so
So they have it, it's just not a magnet.
and those students would age out then eventually out of the Mandarin program.
Yes.
So eventually we would have 100, or if it stayed at the same pace.
Cindy, clarification, sorry. Just clarification, you said you wanted us to be able to make a decision for this in April.
Yeah, at the business meeting. So our final discussion on this will be at the work session.
Okay,
And
so my question is, Beverly Hills, we're not supposed to get information back from them until the end of April.
And we'll actually get the report the first meeting in May. Yeah.
Right.
But the challenge with, and Beverly Hills is on here, but the challenge with Beverly Hills is if we don't reserve those seats for them now, they don't stay together as a school. So all we're doing with the realignment is reserving seats for Beverly Hills to go because the school cannot be built while they're in session there, if we're able to build a school.
Okay.
And that means, of course, there's a whole funding situation that has to happen.
Right.
To be able to do that. And that means we're not repairing or building something else. So we have to see where that sits when the time comes. But if we don't reserve the seats now and they want to rebuild that school, we don't have a school to send them to.
Okay.
So, and that's what we need to remember. This gives us the opportunity to, and I'm just calling it reserving seats. And then we'll have the other decision in the 10-year capital plan and what the commissioners are able to fund against our other needs. So when we look at the budget and we have, what is it, Ms. Klutz, is it like 2.4 million for mobile units?
2.4 is the request, yes.
Yeah, so we need to look at gaining seats and not spending mobile unit money, not just a school replacement. So if we can gain seats, that's a plus, but will it be enough to gain seats, only 100 seats for whatever expenditure it would be? So we'll weigh all that separately, but like I said, right now, if we don't hold these seats, I'm not sure how we would swing that. We'd have to wait to build our Brown probably and create a swing school or something. So, yeah. Okay, so on this item regarding Skybrook. So, Mr. Shoemaker, if we add, the committee's recommendation is to Odell. So what is the Odell capacity? And it's a collective capacity of 2 school buildings, because the 2 Odells are treated together.
Currently, Odell is sitting at 98.7% with 1,668 students attending and a program capacity of 1,690.
And Skybrook's already in that 98.7%.
And then as far, no, that is without Skybrook. You said W.R. Odell.
No, Skybrook is already in the Odell percentage because that was the recommendation of the committee. So that's not plus, that's not adding on to Odell. That percentage does represent.
Oh, okay.
So Cox Mill Elementary School.
Yes, you're correct. I'm sorry, because it subtracts it. Yep, you're correct.
Yeah. So Cox Mill Elementary School, where is it at on the committee's recommendation?
Committee has it at 96.63%, which is 888 students, based on the 2018-19 numbers, and 919 is the program capacity. So there's not a lot of difference between, a 2% difference between Odell and,
Except that
it's a
if
2
you
for 1.
add the 80 students into Cox Mill Elementary, what does it come to? Because we have to plus into Cox Mill. It's already in the Odell number, but what if we put them?
If you put this extra students from, now here's what we've got. If you look at planning block 69, 70.
And 71.
And 71. But you also need to consider the fact that 76 and 464 are right on the bus route that you're taking to go past. So there are 11 students and 2 students.
And board members, I did ask the question from staff, and I sent you the information. The buses for Cox Mill Elementary School do go out Harris Road, turn right on Poplar Tent, go down the hill and turn right on Cox Mill Road. So they do not go through the neighborhood. They would be passing those perimeter areas that would go to a different school unless we include them, is what Mr. Shoemaker is saying. So can you just add in the 80 to the Cox Mill and tell me what that percentage is?
Oh, I'm trying to.
Okay. But then, like I said, we do need to look at, do we drive by other children?
Let's see. Planning block 8 out of there. All right, so the number goes with just the Skybrook community and North Chase and Poplar Tent. Those are all the 5 communities.
So planning blocks 76 and 464?
Right. You can't, include 3 and not include them, because you gotta go right by their houses to get.
Well, we do that, we're gonna do that many other places. We drive by, the bus drives by going to a different school.
To the same elementary school? It could be a high school, but I don't think we have any case where we're doing that right now on,
I'm sure we do.
I don't think we do. But that's only 13 students, but we're looking at, you go from 96.63% to 108.92%. In the meantime, when you look at that same scenario with Odell,
So it goes up to 109% with the 80 children plus the additional 13?
yes,
Okay, it goes to
Good.
109, and then you're taking that same 80, 93 out of Odell?
right. And I didn't include, I took planning block 8 out of that, just so that y'all would know. When I put planning block 8 in there, it goes to 117%.
Oh, no, we're not moving elementary for planning block 8.
Okay.
So we don't even have that on the list.
Okay, and that was a stray.
Yeah. That was a wishful thinking to align the kids, but it's not practical.
So WR down. And Odell will go from 98.7% down to 92%.
And as you said last week, we need to remember that 92% is off of 1,600 student capacity because it's 2 schools.
Right, so a 1% change in Odell is 16 students, almost 17 students. So it basically means a little over 8 students per school with a 1% change, which is a little different than what you have at Cox Mill.
Okay. So board members, I know, we like to keep children where they are and whatnot, but Cox Mill Elementary, we already have a new development that was considered by the City of Concord. I don't know what they decided. Did you hear anything on that one? There was a new development off of Christenbury that most likely it's going to be approved because they usually are. That is surely going to add. That was several hundred townhomes and apartments. So, which is probably, what's our percentage? Do you guys remember off of apartment children? Is it a half or like 0.4 child per apartment or something? I think apartments are higher than that now. I don't remember what the exact number is. But anyways, I mean, I know people don't like to hear about statistics, but we have to make sure we have seats for children. And to put Cox Mill Elementary at 109% from the get-go, I think that's risky. And the goal is really to get everybody under 100 if we can, unless we have a compensating factor. So how do you want this one to be included? As they keep the committee's recommendation or not?
If you keep the committee's recommendation, Cox Mill Elementary stays at 96.63%. And WR Odell stays at 98.7%. That's what the committee's recommendation was. Now, remember, the 98.7% is a lot more students than the 2% for, than the 4% for Cox Mill.
Yeah, it's basically double. 1% at Cox Mill Elementary, or no, 1% at Odell Schools equals 2% at Cox Mill Elementary.
If you move the students, though, you'll go from the 96.3% at, or 888 students at Cox Mill, you'll go to 1,001 students at Cox Mill, which is at 109%.
So I think that's important. We may need both of those lines on the summary for Cox Mill Elementary when we group that and see what the capacity is. If you keep the recommendation, it's this percent. If you alter it and move those planning blocks around that edge of Harris Road, Poplar Tent, the way the bus travels, then it's going to be this percent. Okay. On the very bottom of the chart I sent you, if you can scroll down, Dane. I added a new line, and I don't know why mine's acting crazy. So for middle school, Northwest Cabarrus Middle School is still under capacity, a good amount, and Harris Road Middle School is still over, even with all the committee recommendation stuff. And we need to do something there because Harris Road Middle can't keep up that total. When you think for all of the areas on the west side of the county, Harris Road Middle School is their middle school. You know, they have the 3 elementary buildings, so in effect 3, because Odell's really 2. They have 3 elementaries, they have a big high school, but they only have the 1 middle school. And it was still over 100%. I'm going to say 106, 107%.
It's 107% at Harris Road, and Winkler's at 100%.
Okay.
And, yeah, those are the only 2 middle schools that are over 100%.
So in reviewing the maps with Mr. Shoemaker last night, that very last item there is a suggestion. If we follow Mooresville Highway, and Ms. Grimsley, you will remember this from years gone by, we had that whole upper, when we're looking at the county, that whole upper left band along Mooresville Highway, both sides, was all northwest, and then it dropped down into what we have on the committee recommendation now. But, so this suggestion is, there's 28 students in that upper far west county, that's actually Davidson address. What was the River Run? No, it wasn't River Run. What was the one? Dr. Winkler used to live there. River Ridge.
I think it was River.
Was it
Run.
River? Anyways, those areas that all need to go to Mooresville Highway, whether it's north or south of Mooresville Highway, they need to go to Mooresville Highway to go over towards the school. They're not coming down south. So those are in the planning blocks, and that's the little map I sent you last night that had a really crooked line, because I was trying to do it with a mouse, around it, but we can have that formally done. And look at those areas as including. It helps Harris Road's numbers, and it helps Northwest Cabarrus Middle School's numbers. So it's not a huge volume of students, but that area is going to go to Northwest anyways, to the high school. So it syncs them up. So they would be Odell Elementary, Northwest Middle, Northwest High.
This would be a good opportunity just to show the map on the screen here so they
Okay.
can kind of get an idea.
Let me, Dane, I will send you an email with it in. If I can find it here.
Because just talking about it, I know it doesn't make sense, but when you see it on the map, you'll kind of understand, because what we're trying to do is just follow Mooresville Highway. So you have to bring students across 73 from all the way across Mooresville Highway, all the way up by Mooresville Highway. Just move them straight down Mooresville to Northwest Cabarrus Middle School.
No, that's not it. Barry, help me find it. I know I sent it out to everybody.
Oh. I don't know here. So painful. Was that in the bus routes?
No.
No.
I thought I sent, did I send you guys that map? I thought I did,
Filter.
but I am not seeing it in here.
I don't recall seeing it either.
Dane, can you alt-tab and go to the realignment map on Cabarrus County Schools?
And I think I
All right.
deleted it out of my
Student
buffer.
realignment. See that? Right. Keep going down. There you go. You're almost there. There it is. See it says kindergarten registration. Keep going up. Up. There you go. You're right there. Click it. All right. Now, when you see the interact, you see this in the middle of the documents and resources, it says interactive boundary map. Click on that one.
Oh, no, here it is. It's in the bottom of the email I sent you guys last night.
Okay.
It's just below those attachments. Here, Barry, just let me send
Okay.
this to him.
Well, I was just going to get him to blow it up because everybody can see it from here.
Yeah. I mean, I just have it already sectioned out.
It's gotta go to high school too.
Oh, I see what you did.
You'll have to click the high school options, or the middle school options.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, Dana, I
Dane.
just sent you the email. No, just, yeah, you can just open the email and, yeah, you don't
you
want
can
your email
just
on
choose
camera.
map layers, hit planning blocks, see that very top one? No, not high school. Planning blocks, then hit the cross, yeah, and do the drop down. Okay, now hit planning blocks labels, PB labels. It's the next one down, that one, And then put in middle school, which is the 6-8 planning block. There you go. And then go down to middle school recommended zones. There you go. And now just hit the plus or however you want to blow it up. Yeah, and then drag it over some and then blow it up a little bit more. Ms. Reimer, you know where it is, don't you?
I'm trying to get there, I think.
Okay.
Tell me the
Yeah,
numbers again.
drop it down.
Well, you're just going to the northwest corner of the county. And
Just
keep
drop it
going
down a
down.
little bit.
There you go. Now move it over a little bit. There you go. Down a little bit more. There you go. Perfect. You captured it.
Okay.
Oh, nope,
No.
nope. Too much. Go back one, go one shrink.
Yeah, just hit the minus, it'll,
There you go. That's good.
okay. So what we're talking about is planning block 37.
So 37 is up in the very northwest corner. You can see by Sugar Hill. Can you see it,
can see
Laura?
where that white
Okay.
is Mooresville Highway,
Yeah, and so, yeah, it's the yellow route that,
or yellowish, yeah.
yeah, kind of comes down through there. So then you look at 37, then you move down, the next planning block that you come to would be 39. The next planning block you come to is 38. Oh, leave it alone,
Yeah.
just go back up. Because we got everything we need,
Don't
right?
move the map,
Yeah.
just let
Yeah.
Barry talk to it.
Yeah, so we go down to 42 from 38. Y'all see that? Everybody following? So, yeah, Dane, if you point to it, that'll be good. All right, so Dane, now go back up to 41. You'll see 41. It's just straight up. Keep going, right there, 41. Then we were picking up, move to the right to 56. There you go, it has 0 in it. Then continue to move downward to the right to 58. And then to 57, go down. Now, 57 is the convergence of Odell School and Wendy Road. And then from there, you go to 47. There. So that was the ones that we were talking about, since they have almost direct access to Mooresville Highway. That grouping of students could go to Northwest Cabarrus. One of the things we did notice is in Planning Block 51, if you could go back across to Planning Block 51, it's a real unusual planning block because, as you notice, there's nothing but acreage until you get down to the very bottom corner of it, and that's where the development is. So the planning block actually probably could have chopped off right before you reached that development, and all of that could have been going to Northwest Cabarrus, but that's where the two are probably coming from. I mean, if I was a betting person, I would say they're coming from Paxton Road and whatever that is. So what we were recommending is, was moving those students to Northwest Cabarrus Middle School. And that keeps you from, it gets a few students out of Harris Road, because they're gonna all end up going to Northwest Cabarrus High School anyway. So it was like least of,
And Dane, stay on this map, don't click off of it, because I want to do something on the bottom there.
actually, if you could move it to the you see the point, the point of the county? If you could move that up towards the, move the whole map just towards that eyeglass. right?
There you
Oh,
go.
now come down just a little bit.
Perfect.
There you go, perfect. You can't see it here, but if he were to shrink it, go one step to shrink the map, that's good. All right. As you notice, you can see where 73 and you can see where these planting blocks are that I talked about. See, they're having to go a long way just to get to 73 and then over to Harris Road. And they can probably get to Northwest Cabarrus easier and quicker than to go the route that they're having to go. Plus, when you look at planting block 47, the only route for that planting block to go is to go up towards planting block 41 to Highway 3 and then back down Odell School to get back. So they probably got the longest ride of anybody in that area. Because it doesn't connect to the farm.
Well, can y'all do that real quick with your plus and
It's already
minus?
done.
You already did it, so where is that that bottom?
Well, yeah, I have that number.
So it doesn't get Harris Road. It doesn't get Harris Road completely down, but it helps. Every amount will help.
So Barry, can you just give me the capacities if you've got the numbers?
Yeah, hold on. So for Northwest Cabarrus, it will go from 835 at 94.46% to 97.62% at 863. And then Harris Road. Harris Road will drop from 1,334 to 1,306, and it'll go from 107.4% to 105%. So it's still overcrowded, but not as much. It has a program capacity of 1,242.
So that's for the middle school, then did y'all tie in the high school capacities when we make those changes?
Well, the high school, Northwest High School is taking everything on the north side of 73 right now in the recommendation. So
Yes.
we
We're not
haven't
changing
bothered
any
with
planning
that.
blocks for the high school plan.
Well, we haven't bothered with that yet.
Yeah.
We were trying to just deal with this particular one.
Yeah, so anyways, for the middle school, are you okay if we include these in the tally? Because it reduces Harris Road a little bit. Like I said, I think they need all the assistance we can give them from the capacity standpoint.
I mean, I get that and I agree
Yeah.
with that in theory, but does it change anything for the high school if we make those changes? Because
Not
you
this,
didn't-
but let's show the, Dane, if you would click on the planning blocks on the top, map exactly where it is. Well, if you click plan blocks 912, it'll unclick the other one. Oh, no one, okay, yes, so unclick that one, and then go down, instead of MS recommended, high school recommended. Okay, so you can see, can you scroll that point or take that point up to the corner again? Just so we can see it better, okay. So the emails we've been receiving are, which we had already gained consensus last week, but just to address it, we had 3 planning blocks in that area before, and I don't remember which 3, but they've been emailing with 4 planning blocks.
Hold on, I'll get it for you. So
Yeah, those 4 planning blocks are 115 students.
45, 48, 49, and 52 are the ones that.
Yeah, so Dane, it's right above the gold area where Highway 73. So it's 45, 52, which is up at an angle a little bit there. Now go back to 45. So it's 45, 52 up to the right, 49, and 48. But you can see it leaves planting blocks that are right by them at Northwest Cabarrus. So that whole area up there now is Northwest Cabarrus High School. So actually, by moving the middle school children on the very top portion of the county, it keeps them at Northwest Cabarrus Middle and Northwest Cabarrus High. So it actually helps the feeder a little bit. But the folks who've been emailing are like I said, asking as a group. So that would mean taking 115 children out of Northwest Cabarrus High School and putting them into Cox Mill High School. And that's where it's a really risky
But they
addition.
currently go to Cox Mill now.
Yes, but the
Okay.
recommendation has them moving out, so you have to add them back in.
But then, for some reason, this option D included them. and
But
it
you can
didn't-
see how, look at the option D, how jagged it
I
is.
see how it's jagged, I just don't understand why it would have changed if they can hold that capacity. It seemed to be okay at that option.
But it wasn't because there's so many other trickle-down domino effects when you look at that. I mean, I looked at that last night as well. And there's really a domino effect that you can't sustain. So even the Cox Mill, the Robinson boundary, everything changes. So that's why we have to go off of one option. And if you want to plus or minus planning blocks, because once you get into looking at multiple options as a baseline,
Okay, for the sake of this community, can we add those in and see what the difference is?
yeah, I mean, he can add it in now.
All right, so. Sorry. Just trying to clean up.
So was it 4 planning blocks, is that?
4 planning blocks, yes, 115 total.
So 45, 49, 48, 52?
52. Mhm.
All right, so if they stay at CMHS 4552, Fallon Block 4552,
48, 49.
48, and 49. Cox Mill goes from 1,452 students to 1,639 students and goes from 87% to 98.26%. If I do this to North Cabarrus High School, then Northwest Cabarrus High School goes from 1,103 students at 82.3% to 997 students at 74%. So
Okay, so the
right
impact,
now,
the bigger impact there is
so
Northwest is losing students, so wouldn't have.
Well, it's both ways. So Cox Mill High School still needs growth room because they're still built out there. And
Yeah.
you're putting, which I'm surprised, Cox Mill High School wasn't built for, they were built for 1,500 or 1,600. And this is saying 1,639 is only 98%.
1668
1,668,
is the program number for Cox Mill.
that seems high. Based on what it was built for, wasn't it like 1,600? I thought it was 1,600.
You've added portables.
Huh?
You've added portables.
Oh, counting the mobile units. No, that's not.
It was design 15 and program capacity, it's how they're using the facility, allows them to go up.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So the core capacity is 15.
both Cox Mill High School and Northwest Cabarrus are sitting at 80. Cox Mill is at 87%, Northwest Cabarrus is at 82% in the base.
That's what's this change?
That's without any changes. Then when you do the
Using
change.
the committee's recommendation.
Yeah, it was the committee's recommendation. Then when you make those changes and add those numbers, then Cox Mill High School goes to 98.26%, or 1,639 students. And Northwest goes to 74.4%, so we basically have depopulated that school.
So that's one of those effects when we looked at that area south of 85, along Highway 73 on the east side. If you took them out and sent them to West Cabarrus, that was a minus. If you take this area out, that's a minus. So all of a sudden, you have a high school at 60% maybe. We can't do that. We need to use our seats. That's one of the things we're charged with every time we ask the county for money. You know, how have you balanced? So, I mean, I actually think the committee came out with a decent solution on balancing. The other thing I worry about this area off of 73 on the west side of the county is, to me, it looks like it's cherry picking planning blocks. Because then you have, you know, one that comes down, planning block 44 comes right down on the west side of 45. They're still going to have to come down to Highway 73 somewhere between the Cox Mill High School District to get out of their neighborhood. So you have all those on the bottom, and it's only been these four neighborhoods have kind of, you know, said, we like that, another option. But I'm guessing that's why the committee evolved over time. When they adjusted planning blocks, they probably looked more at the roadways, what's the transportation area. And I know our transportation department looked at the committee's recommendation before they finalized. So. I know nobody likes change, and, you know, I probably wouldn't like it either. But my kids, fortunately, for whatever, were always the ones left behind when their schools split. Their schools split many times, but they always stayed at the old school. So we had already agreed last week that we were not going to move that area because of the impact. Are you saying you want to reconsider? I don't know that we can do that to Cox Mill High School.
So the overall impact of adding 81 from Planning Block 8 and then the 100 and whatever, I have 106, I don't know if I have a bad entry, is the 98.26. If you take the 81 out and removed Planning Block 8, then it would go to 93.4%. But now you've got to send that Planning Block 8 back all the way over to Robinson, and they're less than 2 miles from the high school.
Yeah, and they're already at Cox Mill now anyways, too.
Yeah.
So, you know, when these areas, we always find that we have to keep compressing almost in a, maybe an odd-shaped circle, but a circle around the school. So you remove or reassign kids from, you know, around the perimeter of the new circle.
So Cox Mill, just with the movement of the 81 students in Planning Block 8, would go from 1452 to 1533, or from 87% to 91.9. But once you add in those other planning blocks, then that's when the school zooms up to 98.26%.
Okay, so have we considered yet and got down to, because this is getting to me so skewed with us spreading around, 249, 265?
Or those.
Right, yeah.
Oh.
I thought the last time we recommended that stay with West Cabarrus, and now this one says keep it Northwest Cabarrus.
Yes, that's the area along Highway 73.
Right, but I thought at our work session, we said we were going to include that because.
We were going to include them, and that's one of the areas when I, at the beginning of the meeting, when I said there were two areas we identified that couldn't sustain the change. One was that Planning Block 8, Concord Mills Boulevard, having them go back to Harris Road. We couldn't sustain that change because Harris Road was too far over capacity. So we needed to go with the committee's recommendation on that one. This area is the other one, along Highway 73 with the 249. Let me find the other numbers here. And I just scrolled past it, I think. It was the area along Highway 73 east of 85. If we take them out of Northwest Cabarrus High School, it drops it way down. So that's where, if we took everybody out of Northwest Cabarrus High School, if we took the east of Highway 73 and the far west 73, that's when they were down to like 60%.
And you know what, I get that, but when we're talking about not traveling over into another district, that we just talked about Skybrook, what are we doing here?
That's because, 73 is being the major highway.
And we're crossing over that.
You're not crossing into another district. You're driving on the top of it, on the edge.
Well, if those kids down here in planning block 268 are gonna travel up to Northwest Cabarrus High School, correct?
Yeah, but that's where they are today.
I
That's
know,
a-
but
that's a
that was the
no
whole
move.
point of us changing that and putting them at West Cabarrus, so they didn't have to make that travel up. That was our last discussion.
Yeah, let me pull my map, just to follow you what you're saying, travel up.
Can we flip between the option 1 and option 2 on high school again? Because option 2 had them going to.
It did, but we can't empty Northwest Cabarrus High School.
It didn't have to on option 2 though.
Yeah, but Rob, we can't, we're starting back, if we start baselining off option 2, we're starting at 0. We have to redo everything. We need to stick to one map and say what you want to change.
Okay, what I'm saying is the only difference I see between option 1 and option 2 is that area. Am I wrong?
Are you talking
I
about at
don't
the high school
Yes.
level?
I don't know, there's some other stuff that.
Okay.
Is there any other change?
Okay, so tell me what would be the goal of moving that area out of Northwest Cabarrus at this point, when that's where they're at?
Well, that was a staff recommendation, correct?
Yeah, it wasn't on the recommendation. I think
Right.
eventually they go to West Cabarrus, but right now, when we looked at it last night,
Yeah, but y'all, that's right, y'all looked at it, that's what I'm saying.
yeah, anybody could have looked at it.
And that, you're right, but I thought we were just gonna move, that is not, this
Yeah.
right here is not what we talked about at the work session. We talked about leaving that in West Cabarrus, that's what I'm saying, there's so many changes compared to what, if I'd known that, I would have
No,
scrutinized.
there's not
the
that
order.
many changes, really.
Well, there is, this one definitely is, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
we
if you want,
definitely-
Barry can do the numbers, take those 103, let's see this, so the recommendation, option 1, which is what our baseline is, they were at Northwest Cabarrus. If you take 103 out of Northwest Cabarrus, West Cabarrus is okay to add that 103 in.
Well, I was taking everybody out.
It wasn't the numbers, I mean, and I get that, you're right,
Yeah.
that, we've got to look at it in two different aspects.
Yeah.
But the issue is, we left it there for the work session, so I didn't expect to see that change. We left it
Yeah.
at West Cabarrus, that's what I'm saying, I didn't expect to see that change.
And we
Now
can-
I need to know what else it changed if we did that, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the prohibitive part is the dropping the capacity so low. So there were only 2 things. That was one, and the other one was planning block 8 middle school. Would have done too much damage to the Harris Road Middle School. This one would have done the damage to Northwest Cabarrus.
And I hear what you're saying, I really do, I just haven't had time to really kind of absorb that
Yeah.
and think that
All
through.
right, so if we go with the email recommendations that we've had with the planning blocks, that 4th series of planning blocks, and you add the Zamosa Acres and Terrace Bend and
Oak
those
Park,
groups,
Cambridge Commons, yeah.
Northwest Cabarrus goes from 1,103 students to 894 students. So it goes from an 82% to 66.7%.
And if you take out the planning blocks along 7, if you take out the planning blocks on the east and the west side of the Northwest Cabarrus District on 73, so if you subtract out the other ones, that's where it got really bad.
Yeah, but Northwest is still in a growing area, right?
Well, it's growing, but
It is, but there's not water and sewer in a lot of that area now, not yet. Because Kannapolis annexed all of that, and they haven't extended yet.
Well, may I make a suggestion just for time, since we really haven't had time to see some of this, and I'd get it, if I'd have known those were the kind of changes we were looking at, I would have scrutinized it a little bit more. Can we just have some time to look at this between now and the next one and send some more questions, because some of the things that I didn't expect to see are huge tonight, to consider.
Well, and like I said, we had already agreed on that area on the west side of the county that we've gotten all the emails on. We'd already agreed it needs to stay at Northwest Cabarrus.
But this is big, and we didn't agree on this, you know.
No, like I said, that was one of the two caveats that I shared with you all earlier because of the numbers. So I think what we can do is, Barry and I can work on it to say, here's the capacities, if we include all of these things for Northwest Cabarrus and show it by school and what it does. But I do need you all to promise that you will review this a week ahead of time, because.
But you didn't send this a week ahead of time.
No, because this was just a summary from last week.
But it's different from what we left.
Two rows were different.
Right, but still, that's still different, and it
Yeah.
still gives us something to consider. And, you know, if I would have known that, I would have looked at that a little closer, you know, today.
Yeah,
just
I
didn't
believe
realize
I
that.
did send that in the email to you.
Today?
With a summary, the email I sent last night.
Right.
Yeah, I believe the summary, the differences are in there, and I explained about the capacity issues. So,
What I will do is I'll send you the sheet that we started with tonight, and I don't know what your Excel skills are like, but if you have questions, I can walk you through the filtering process, so you know how to filter, and we can go through it, and I can bring it up on my laptop, and you can bring it up on yours, and we can talk about what you see, and that way we can really see eye to eye on what we're talking about. Because, I mean, we're talking about a lot of information, and you can sort it a bunch of different ways and get a lot of different answers, and we're trying to get one consistent answer so everybody understands where we are. Yeah.
okay. So regarding the public hearing, we need to include anything that we're potentially changing away from the committee recommendation. If we drop the committee recommendation and they stay at their same school, we don't need to have another public hearing. So that's a change, but they're not changing anything now. So they're just staying, and so there's no need to have another public hearing. So do you all want to have that second public hearing at the next work session with the limited planning blocks that are affected? So it only be, so for example, to use Skybrook or Rollingwood Forest, if we are saying leave them where they are, so Skybrook's a good example. They've already had the opportunity for the public hearing regarding moving to Odell. If we don't move them, they stay at their current school, so they don't need a new public hearing. So if you have no change, or you have already been part of the committee recommendation, then there's not another public hearing. Only for the areas that we moved in. So for example, that area in Harrisburg that lines up the schools along 49, that would be considered for a new public hearing, that one section. Likewise, a couple of these other ones to move a small section to Robinson to clean up some lines. Those would be eligible. So I have in here in the notes already, is new public hearing required? And if it's basically no, stay at the same school, you don't need one. Other areas don't apply as well. There's only a couple areas that would have the public hearing, and it would be posted for those areas. So, yes, sir.
Madam Chair, legally, a public hearing is not required at all. This is just the board going above and beyond for those planning blocks that would be affected by these additional changes.
And you can limit a public hearing. If it's open to the public, it's open to the public.
You can limit it to, since you're not required to have a public hearing at all, you can limit this to, and you've already had public hearings on this, you can limit this to only those new planning blocks that are affected, as Ms. Furtenbach just described.
Yeah, and I was going off of Mr. Schwartz's advice, so. Okay, so we will work up another chart, if you will, about what the effects are of each, but you're going to need to keep in mind that it's a cumulative effect. So if we say yes to everything, it really kind of can affect some schools negatively and other schools, well, I guess negatively, too many students or too few students. So, Mr. Walter?
I'd again like to see the GIS data from the consultant so I can mess with this myself as well.
Say that again, sir?
I would like to see the GIS data from the consultant.
And I believe the board would have to vote, and it would be against policy. So you
Uh,
can see all
housing.
the numbers behind there.
No, I think if you have a GIS system, you can move planning blocks and change them any way you want to and make a report on it, instead of going through all these spreadsheets.
Well, if you, just like I requested today, could they split the planning block when the neighborhoods were not connected? If you see something like that you want, within, I'll say, limited scope, we can have that done.
Well, I'd still like to see the data.
Okay.
Madam Chair, let me ask you something. Is
Sure.
there any way, when we're doing this, I thought it was very helpful, and I guess my vision here is kind of tainted from how we did it before, so it would be so helpful when we're doing this. I know Barry's looking at it while he's doing it, but to be able to put it up where we can see, just like we just did now with the maps.
It's really awkward to work off of two presentations and working.
I know,
with
and
this
it's
is
really hard for us to
absolutely-
visualize what you're seeing.
Well, the GIS system, you just have to click the color and it changes. And it'll tell
But
you
what
the
I'm
number.
saying is, the map that you just did, that was real helpful, to be looking at that and hearing you, because not being able to see it and trying to listen
Yeah.
to you at the same time is just,
And we can try at the next work session to do the double screens again.
okay.
Um,
I think that would be good, because then you can see what you're
Yeah,
doing. You're
the
not just
cameras
hearing
only
it.
caught one screen, so the people, I guess, didn't see the map. That was challenging. But it was helpful for us. We just didn't set it up for tonight.
But my suggestion is, before we go to that meeting, I will send this out. I really suggest that we all have a conversation, so we can talk on the phone. So you kind of get familiar with how the mechanics of the sheet, you can do your own scenarios based on the base, and then you realize that there are planning blocks in there that I've put some color coding in there to kind of capture some of the things that we've done, but,
So let me ask you something. Where did the 2018-19 numbers come in? Were we using that the last time?
Yes.
The original committee recommendations were doing it off of the 17-18 numbers, but they were finished with their work until the new numbers were available.
Yeah, the new
But
numbers
Cropper
came out
updated it.
right in sometime in late January, early February, and Cindy sent an email out, here are the new 2018 numbers. So what I did is I just went ahead and applied those.
Well, that would be huge. That's a very
And so
big
that's
piece of
why you see
information.
Yeah, but you
the
have
numbers
that.
change.
I
Yeah.
know I have it now, but we
Yeah.
didn't have it before, when we have been looking at, as new board members. Y'all have been looking at some of these things a little differently
Yeah,
from
we didn't
us.
have until January either.
Right, and
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that's a big piece of information to know that that's a different number now. And that's why the percentages, if I would have went back and pulled my old notes, I wouldn't have got those same capacity numbers, because I didn't realize that.
Yeah, in the presentation that we got from Cropper, I believe the cover page was like this. The new numbers are in there, and you can see the adjustments, so. Okay, so board, you wish to have a limited public hearing at the work session for the new areas?
Yes.
So we'll just have, I'll narrow down the list based on what I have in the new public hearing required. And technically, as Mr. Schwartz said, it's not required. But we'll do that and get it posted. And Mindy will have to notice it for us and all those things. Like I said, it'll be for certain planning blocks. So I'll try to write it up with a description of area off of Concord Mills Boulevard, or, whatever. Some description such as that. Okay, so anything further tonight? Not regarding realignment anyways, we still have a few more things. So board members, I'll call for a motion to convene in closed session to consult with an attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to General Statute 143, 318, 11A3, and to consider confidential personnel matters pursuant to General Statute 143, 318, 11A6. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, I'll do Mr. Shoemaker and Mrs. Grimsley made the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? A 5-0. Okay, thank you to our viewing audience tonight. We do have an agenda item after closed session. I don't know, I don't think we're going to keep the cameras on for that, probably, right? I don't know, because we have to go into closed session in between. So, thank you very much for joining us. I know it's a very difficult discussion to review realignment, but we're going to get through this. Thank you and good night.